To the Turn On Your Inner Light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Carolyn Dean, MD, ND, a consultant to Total Health for Longevity, the author of 12 books on health issues, and her latest is The Magnesium Miracle. Magnesium is an essential mineral, and many of us might be deficient. It could be the missing link to your health. Welcome, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you very much, Debbie. Good to be here. And I'm sorry, I think you have a very old bio because it's up to 29 books now.
Oh, my God, that is amazing. Oh, even more miraculous. Well, I know, I can't believe it. Oh, okay. Well, that's wonderful to be so prolific with a font of information. Now, what is so amazing about magnesium? What are some of the ailments it can address?
Well, it is amazing, partly because nobody knows about it. It's one of these heroines that has been ignored mostly by medicine, and it is responsible for over 325 enzyme systems in the body, making it available to assist chemical reactions in the body that actually include temperature regulation. It produces and transports energy. It's necessary for the synthesis of protein in the body, helps transmit nerve signals, helps relax muscles. So in terms of conditions, well, it affects people in their anxiety, asthma, blood clots, constipation, bladder spasms, depression, diabetes, fatigue, heart disease, hypertension, low blood sugar, insomnia, kidney stones, migraines, any sort of musculoskeletal condition, any sort of nerve problem, PMS, infertility, osteoporosis, sudden infant death syndrome, tooth decay, and toxicity. And that's the ones that have been researched and studied that we know for a fact magnesium deficiency can trigger all those conditions.
That's amazing. So in my mind, it's really getting the status of vitamin D. Vitamin D is the vitamin du jour, I think, that many doctors have been testing for.
Exactly. And it's interesting you should bring that up because what we started to realize and what we've known in research for a while is that if you take extra vitamin D, you can actually unmask a magnesium deficiency and vice versa. So that's where, everything works together, and we can't just say, oh, this is the only thing you can take. You have to look at how the body interacts. And what we find is people who say, oh, I started taking vitamin D and I felt worse. Well, it may not be the vitamin D, but that it's calling out for some more magnesium.
That's a point well taken. Now, let me ask you this. Why are we deficient, would you say, in magnesium? I understand vitamin D because basically it's skin absorption. Living here in the East Coast, it's winter. I'm not getting it. And in the summer, maybe I wear too much sunscreen. But what would make us deficient in magnesium?
Well, that's very interesting, and it has to do with agricultural practices. We know that 100 years ago, in the food we ate, we would get 500 milligrams of magnesium. And nowadays, we're lucky if we get 150 milligrams. So it's been farmed out of the soil because we know that fertilizers do not contain minerals. They should, but they don't, so that the minerals in the soil have been depleted. And that's not just for magnesium, that's for most minerals, except calcium. Calcium seems to, stay in the soil and stay in our food so that, in fact, in our diet, we're getting much more calcium than we are magnesium. And that sets up a real imbalance because calcium, for example, tightens up muscles. It hardens them, in a sense, and magnesium relaxes them. When they're in balance, the calcium and magnesium, then everything is fine. But if you have too much calcium and not enough magnesium, your muscles tense up, and one of the biggest muscles in the body is the heart. So when the heart tenses up, that means you're getting angina, and you can get a heart attack just from having not enough magnesium.
That makes sense, because you're losing elasticity in your circulatory system as well. So you're really getting a hardening of the arteries, partially.
Exactly, and you saying that makes me think immediately of high blood pressure, because when you tighten up your blood vessels, what's that but high blood pressure? And that is caused by not enough magnesium and too much calcium. And actually, your listeners can go to a non-profit website called nutritionalmagnesium.org, and I'm the medical director of that site, and on there you'll see a video of the cell and how the cell acts in the face of too much calcium. And the cell can go into spasm if it has too much calcium and not enough magnesium, and that can happen throughout the body. I mean, people say to me, how can magnesium deficiency cause infertility? Well, it does so because without enough magnesium, the fallopian tubes can go into spasm and not allow the transmission of the sperm up to the ovaries. So anything to do with muscle cramps or spasms, a Charlie horse in the calf muscle of your leg in the middle of the night, that's a magnesium deficiency. Restless leg syndrome for a lot of people is a magnesium deficiency symptom, so it's very, very common.
Yeah, you had a very nice chapter on the relationship between magnesium and exercise for those people who are more athletic, how important it is in terms of, getting lactic acid deposits and other pains, and how you can go the distance because of it.
Yes, what's interesting about athletes, and I have a number of them as clients, I do telephone consultations, and they'll come to me after decades of doing their sport, and they're totally magnesium deficient. Why? Because they sweat out magnesium and they don't replace it. We focus on you're sweating out sodium, so you take, salt tablets, or you take these crazy electrolyte drinks that are all sugar and salt and maybe some potassium, but they have no magnesium. And without magnesium, you can actually get someone at the end of a 10-kilometer run who drops dead because their heart is in spasm.
And that does happen. We just had a similar case in New York. Well, we come to commercial break, and we will return with Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle. Now, do I need a supplement if it's determined I'm getting symptoms that I'm deficient, or are there foods that are magnesium rich that I could really ingest and feel covered?
Well, I think my conclusion at the end of doing research for this book was that you really can't get enough in your food if you have any of the symptoms or the conditions I talked about. And, just to go to your caregiver's workout, caregivers really need extra magnesium, as do people who are ill, because stress will cause you to deplete your magnesium. Now, the foods that are high in magnesium, it's whole grains, nuts and seeds, deep green leafy vegetables, the bitter chocolates. Chocolate is high in magnesium. I tell people if they're craving chocolate, they're probably craving magnesium.
That'd be me.
But what happens in our world is statistically 90% of our food dollar is spent on junk food and fast food. So just looking at that means 10% of what people are buying is good unprocessed food, and it's only in the unprocessed foods, the deep green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, that you're going to get some magnesium. So I tell people, look, if you don't want to take a pill, you can actually just take an Epsom salt bath every day and put 2 cups of Epsom salt in a bath, and that's magnesium sulfate. And people will tell me, well, gosh, I sleep better after I have an Epsom salt bath. But if you want to have something that can be taken by mouth, there's magnesium citrate powders, there's other forms of magnesium. I actually have under my resources list, I don't sell products, but I have resources on my website at drcarolyndean.com that you can look at. And one of the biggest things is choosing the right form of magnesium. Magnesium oxide, that's probably the one that's most prescribed by doctors. It turns out that's only 4% absorbed. So the rest of it actually runs through the intestines. And it's a great laxative, especially for people who have constipation, but not everybody wants that effect. So I recommend the magnesium citrate. If you're like me, any magnesium pill I take has the laxative effect. So I do the Epsom salt bath, and I take a type of magnesium called an angstrom magnesium. And an angstrom is just a size, it's between a picometer and a nanometer, but that's the size that can be absorbed at the cellular level. So you only have to take very low potency magnesium in that form. Again, people can go to resources or just Google my name and the different types of magnesium, and I've written about it at great length on my blog. So people can get this information, and actually, Debbie, people can go to the nonprofit website nutritionalmagnesium.org and get one of my free magnesium ebooks and find out a lot about magnesium, because it is a big topic, and we're not going to be able to get through it all.
Oh, we're just doing cursory discussion, to whet people's appetite. In fact, the Harvard Health Letter wrote about magnesium recently, and just coincidentally, because I think you have your pulse on it. And what I find fascinating, I didn't know that you could get it in an Epsom salt bath. So I think that's fabulous for people who don't want to ingest it or might have, the intestinal equivalent of diarrhea from taking
Right. It. And, a lot of people, they're looking at these new studies that say, actually vitamins kill you sooner, which actually is not true. There's a push by drug companies to denigrate vitamins and minerals because they're not patented, and without getting into that too much, people should just know that the food-based vitamins and minerals are much safer. A lot of the studies are done on synthetic vitamins, and I don't think the body is meant to absorb and utilize synthetics. So that can be the basis for some of these negative studies. but I tell people to use food-based. And if you're concerned, or if your doctor says he doesn't believe in magnesium, or even does a blood test and says it's normal, then you should just go ahead and do your Epsom salt bath, because that way the body can absorb what it needs. And in terms of blood testing, what's very distressing is there is really no good, accurate blood test that's readily available to tell whether you're deficient in magnesium. You pretty much have to go by your symptoms. And the reason for the blood test problem is that only 1% of the total body magnesium is in the bloodstream. So, if you put your dipstick into the bloodstream and think you're going to get an accurate measure, that's wrong, because the body will keep that 1% at a certain level by pulling extra magnesium out of your bones or your muscles just to make sure your heart keeps beating properly. So you're going to have to go by the symptoms that we talked about, the muscle spasms and twitches, the headaches and migraines, the constipation, the insomnia, the lack of energy. They're all symptoms of magnesium deficiency.
Which is really fascinating, because the list was so exhaustive. My first reaction was, okay, come on. It's like everything, this is pushing it. But when you really look at each one independently, and how that there are psychiatric conditions linked to this. But we're going to go to commercial break, and I want to touch on that when we return with Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is the message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. We're back with Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle. So, how does magnesium help alleviate emotional, stressful conditions?
Well, I think that's through the adrenal glands, Debbie. The adrenal glands produce a lot of adrenaline, and that's where your fight or flight symptoms can come up. If you're under stress, you jump at loud noises, etc. And magnesium comes into the picture because magnesium is one of the building blocks for producing adrenaline. So it in some ways helps balance out the production of adrenaline so the body doesn't get too trigger happy and push your adrenaline if it becomes sort of deficient. The other is it's a building block for serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone. And that's what they make synthetic Prozac from the mimicking a molecule of serotonin, but it's best to get it naturally by having the proper amounts of magnesium to produce your own serotonin. It also relaxes the muscles. So, for example, if someone is very tense, and if you try to sleep when your muscles are tense, then you may not get to sleep, or you may sleep at a sort of a heightened level of hypersensitivity, or be what we call hypervigilant, so that any little noise wakes you up. Well, if you take magnesium before bedtime, then it relaxes your muscles and allows you to relax into a deep, rejuvenating sleep. And when you wake up in the morning, you feel better. Because most people, if you get 2 or 3 hours of sleep and you wake up all groggy and dizzy and woozy-headed, then you don't feel good, you feel irritable, and that can, over time, lead to anxiety and depression.
Now, would it help psychiatric conditions that are genetic?
Well, I tend to look at genetic psychiatric conditions as deficiencies or allergies or, a lack of B vitamins and magnesium in the whole family, a poor diet where nobody's getting their nutrients. And that's what's sort of inherited as a bad diet, not necessarily a bad gene. I mean, to look at things genetically, you have to look at the research which shows, for example, in the obesity gene in rats, they'll measure rats and I don't know how they tell it. Well, they tell if a rat is depressed, so that's why I'm bringing up the obesity gene. But in this obesity gene group of rats, if you feed them enough B vitamins, they do not get obese. So it's the vitamins and minerals in a person's cellular structure that allows the expression of genes. The genes don't work on their own.
So why hasn't anybody kind of cured schizophrenia with vitamins? Is this because we're so resistant, or because when you're in psychosis? It has been
cured by Dr. Abram Hoffer. He just died recently at a very old age. He spent 50 or 60 years working with schizophrenia and high-dose vitamins.
But I don't think that's state-of-the-art. You know what I mean? If you would go to a psychiatrist, I don't think that would be how you would treat someone. Maybe initially, but so many people are on medication. It can't always just be the medicalization of America, right? I mean, I want to be honest with people. Some psychoses are so deep, and people. Of
course.
It's not.
But why should so many people be on Prozac? Mm-hmm. It's incredible to look at the statistics of the number of people who have anxiety and mild to moderate depression are on drugs when it could be a deficiency symptom. On my website, on my blog, I recently wrote a blog about the holidays and how to have a good 2012 by utilizing different modalities, and one of them was called the True Hope. TrueHope.com has a program where they use something called Empower Plus, and it is vitamin and mineral combinations that
I urge people to go to it because our time has just flown by. You've been so wonderful, and keep on writing books. I'm waiting for number 30.
Well, that's going to be on yeast, and we can talk about that sometime.
We will. Be well.
Thank you, Debbie.
Affirmation of the week. Feed your imagination the way you do your stomach. And now for the latest medical trends. There's been a 3-fold increase in whooping cough cases in the city, and officials are urging anyone who cares for a baby to get vaccinated. No one has died in the latest outbreak, but whooping cough, a violent chronic cough, also known as pertussis, can be extremely dangerous to infants. Nearly all the babies under 6 months old who fell ill with the highly contagious disease between August and November had to be hospitalized. And according to the journal Neurology, researchers at Oregon Health and Science University found that people who consumed diets high in trans fats were more likely to have brain shrinkage and scored lower on thinking and memory tests compared to people who followed a healthy diet, which means low in trans fats and high in vitamins. Trans fats are found primarily in frozen, packaged, fast foods, baked goods, and margarine spreads. And trans fats are noxious to us, not just in terms of our bodily process, but it seems to the brain. So if you want a healthy brain, get a diet in the range of vitamins like C, D, E, and B, omega-3 fatty acids, and you can maybe prevent brain shrinkage. According to a federally funded study, doing some simple exercises at home is more effective than medicine at getting out a painful crick in the neck. This is according to a new study. Neck pain afflicts at least 3/4 of the people at some point in their lives and may take over-the-counter medications or visit doctors and chiropractors in search of relief. And sedentary office workers tend to be the most susceptible to this condition. So learn how to stretch, get up and move, and you can prevent it. And you know that green paste made from the fiery root of the wasabi japonica? Well, they give it to you with raw fish and sushi restaurants because it's really a potent antibacterial and has great many health benefits. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, totally free, turnonyourinnerlight.com. And all the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to my free newsletter at turnonyourinnerlight.com and you will get the latest interview, a fresh new article on stress management, the health tips fully delineated, emailed directly to you from turnonyourinnerlight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.